We are creating live. The room is now locked. We're locked and loaded. First of all, you look beautiful tonight.
Thank you. Thank you so much. You always look great, Cindy.
Thank you. Well, moms, hello. Thank you. We've had some technical difficulty this evening, but we are here. If you are with us, comment. Let us know what your HR questions are. Shout out to all the moms that have been hitting us up privately with your HR questions. We appreciate it. Hey, little things. It's real. We're real moms with real lives. And right, so, exactly. So thank you for reaching out to us. Every month, we devote a Monday to you all, to your HR questions. This is free HR advice for moms by moms, okay? Right. And tonight, Tangela is joining me. We're two HR professionals, very to the workplace and make sure that we could support you all. So a couple people have reached out to us about benefits. A couple people have reached out to us about job opportunities. Tonight we're talking about negotiating your salary. Okay, it's we just finished the first quarter of the year. Depending on your fiscal year, you might have already gone through the review process, or maybe you will in June. Who knows? But just to pick a good topic for us to talk about, negotiating your salary and making sure you're equipped to have those conversations so that they are informed discussions, and they should be discussions.
Right.
So Tangela, just generally, when we talk about salary negotiations as it pertains to women in particular, mothers for sure aren't included in that. What are your overall recommendations?
Yeah, I think one, it's important to be prepared. So in our cycle at work, we're just out of that time where you would have a salary change. So I think when you go through your performance review, then you get into like your goal setting, you're really restarting your year and creating some type of cadence with your manager. And I know we're talking about negotiating your salary, but I want to kind of take it a step back because I think it's very important to kind of set the tone, right? Like you're working toward a goal, you're having some type of impact, hopefully you're adding value. And as you meet with your managers on a regular basis, you want to kind of make those imprints on a regular basis around how much value you're adding. So after you go through your compensation cycle, let's say you're not happy about that, this would be a good time to have that conversation to say, you know what, I've been doing some research, or I'm familiar with the market, or maybe you even have recruiters reaching out to you and they're offering you jobs that pay more to do similar work. This is the time to kind of have the discussion with your manager about your value and then potentially talk about your compensation. So I find that women tend to shy away from this discussion. They and me, myself included, right? Like this is not something that I'm like, oh yeah, let me tell them, give me more money. It's definitely something that's connected to gender. And you'll see that a lot of companies right now, they're looking at pay equity. One, they've been forced to, right? Like our colleagues in the UK, they've been charged with doing this on a much more formal basis. And then when you think about the impacts of COVID, the fact that a lot of companies now need to be responsible, more corporately responsible around decisions that they're making. So having like those gender gaps in pay is no longer acceptable. Like, I'm just gonna pretend like he's not here for everybody who's and I'm sure my mom is probably out there like, hey, Duty. Anyway, so to keep it focused.
Daddy said no.
Okay, just go watch Daddy for real quick, and let me just talk to people real quick, and then I promise we'll play in a few minutes. Okay? He's happy. Oh gosh, lost my whole train of thought. But a lot of companies have to be more responsible about how they're making decisions. So the good thing, like in New York, you'll find that plenty of companies, I work in financial services, so I know there are companies doing audits around this, whether they've been forced to or not. So to get back to my initial point, making sure your manager understands your value and what you're adding is important. Understanding the market and what you are worth to other companies is important. And then being brave enough to have that conversation, right? And be clear about it, to say, you know, I'm not very happy with my salary, or whatever it may be. You'll have to figure out exactly how you want to position yourself, but don't be afraid to have the talk, because everyone is working. We're all working because we need to work and we need to make money and we need to pay for our families. So as women, as mothers who have other individuals as well to take care of, it's important to have that conversation, because it does add to your satisfaction as well. So that's my long-winded answer, Cindy.
No, I love it. No, you're absolutely right. I love how you always bring us back to narrating our own story of value at work, or at least being the writer of it, and asking, you know, involving our manager along the way. Because that's necessary, right? We can be out here thinking we're doing such an outstanding job, but if we haven't gotten feedback from our manager and to ensure that what looks like great value to us, great value to them, it's not going to match up when it comes to performance review time and making sure like we can have this conversation about salary. I would say, I would agree with you. Number one, having your check-ins with your managers be short milestones to this broader conversation that hopefully happens mid-year and at the end of the year. There should be no surprises, but the only way there are no surprises is, one, if you have a good manager, but that's not always guaranteed. But two, if you are managing your own brand and your own work, constantly seeking feedback to see when you've missed the mark or when you've knocked it out of the ballpark. So use every check-in to ask for feedback and ask for alignment on what good work looks like, right? So should things change afterwards, or, you know, it's not crazy to say, like, at your annual performance review, like all of a sudden new information gets presented. Well, that can't happen really if you have data from all of your previous check-ins that say otherwise, right? So you almost have to advocate for yourself, but also back yourself up in these conversations. So I love how you talk about value at work and having this conversation. I completely agree with you. Market information, market value, ladies, moms, it is so accessible for free. Payscale.com, salary.com, glassdoor.com. I mean, you name it. Just do a Google search in your city, in your sector, with your position name, and put in salary, and you're going to get a range. So the information is too close to us now to not have the information. And that means you're going to have an informed discussion. If you knew you were $20,000 under the average in the market, you might have a different discussion versus if you just worked in your silo, right, for years and waited for somebody to talk to you. So that constant communication with your manager about value at work, always knowing your market value. And lastly, like you said, Tangela, is being brave enough to have this discussion. Historically, like you said, our barriers into this discussion is like, we've been told not to have them, you know, while the other gender has been told to have them all the time. So I think we really need to reinvent ourselves as the conversation starters about this. The more you practice, the better you're going to feel. The more you practice, the more confident you're going to feel. I am not kidding when I say make a script of your conversation and how you want to have it with your manager, and then present it to like 4 of your friends and say, hey, I need to practice this so it feels like second nature, because the conversation is giving me anxiety. I'm so uncomfortable having it. So the only way you can ease that level of anxiety is through practicing and making it feel real normal. make it comfortable to you. The more you practice it, the less butterflies you're going to get having this conversation. So value at work, market value of your job, and practicing your bravery to have these conversations. Because I would say we have to really shift just from in receiving mode to being the assertive role. What did you want to say?
So I'm in total agreement with that. We probably should do something around that conversation with your managers, that one-on-one, because I think a lot of times people go into that thinking, okay, my manager's going to lead this, you know, they may keep the meeting, they may cancel the meeting. But what you touched on around making it more natural and having a conversation that you've prepped for, those one-on-ones serve to also create some type of rapport between you and your manager. So it also eases some of the tension so that you can just have a normal discussion, right? Because you're building that rapport on a regular basis. So I totally agree with you.
I love that. I love that. And are there real, in your experience, are there real budgetary restraints though?
Yes.
Like if I come and I'm like, I want more than the 3% standard cost of living increase.
Yeah, there are.
What would you do with that? Or like, what would you negotiate?
So this is the thing where I feel like it's a catch-22, and it's the reason why your relationship with your manager, staying in touch with others, having mentors and sponsors, all of that kind of comes into play when it comes to the budget. I think, yeah, there's always a budget. Sometimes companies will go the extra mile to keep you after they've seen you gotten an offer from somewhere else. And that obviously, as the person in the seat, is super frustrating. But I think there are limits to the budget. Sometimes you're trying to keep parity. Sometimes your team or your department just can't afford it. But at the end of the day, companies do have a compensation strategy. Most of them do. So they either pay to market, they may pay below market because they have other benefits that supplement that, or they may have they may pay above market. And in many of those cases, that's because the work-life balance is not there, or it's a highly demanding role. So this compensation is one thing, and it's super important, right? Like, I'm always about getting fairly compensated, but you also want to balance it, right? Because you don't want to corner yourself demanding so much money, and then not that you've talked yourself out of a job, you can't be fired for asking more money. But I've definitely seen a lot of people become almost miserable because they think they should be paid more, but it's just a lack of understanding around the market and all those things that you need to compare when comparing one group to another, or one department or one company to another. So to answer your question, yes, there are budget restraints, and negotiating, you have to balance. Compensation is just one component.
Yeah, absolutely. I will also say I have seen probably the most significant jumps in compensation when a title has changed, when a job has changed. So seeking, obviously, getting your baseline great value at work completed, but then seeking out new opportunities, right? So it's easier to jump when you're getting into a new title or a new position, because that usually opens you to a new kind of band or grade, or depending on work, but it's a new, basically, a span of salary that you're able to fit into, because most organizations have a compensation strategy, like Tangela just said. And within that compensation strategy, there have been either grades or just different categories of, like, based on your role and or your job title and the complexity of your job, you have to fit within 40,000 to 60,000. That's a big gap, but like 40 to 50. And so everybody who has that position should fall within that region. And if they don't, there better be a really good reason why. Like, either they've been with the company for like 25 years, right, so they're just making money. But that keeps an organization kind of on plan so that they can show, hey, yep, everybody within this job title is getting paid around the same. And if one is greater than the other, there's something to validate that, whether it's an extra degree, more years of job, more people to manage. But that's essentially the inside look into compensation at an organization. So the more you know about that, the more you can kind of be strategic.
Yep.
The last thing I'll mention, salary negotiation, this can be when you're first offered a job, and also when you maybe are getting a promotion, or even at your performance review, who knows. I would say in my experience, basic negotiation principle has always been true, meaning they'll go this number, you go this number, and you end up somewhere
In the middle. Right, right.
Like, yes. So, I mean, this has been absolutely true, like through and through to today, where looking back 2 jobs ago, I asked the HR manager, like, oh, was there like $2,500 more? You know, he was like, yeah, but you know, I was here, you were there, and we met in the middle, you know, and I was like, dang, I should have gone higher.
Right.
So we say all that to say, go higher with the expectation of landing in the middle. So if your middle is $60,000, ask for 70, and they'll negotiate it down. So don't feel like just because they made that first offer on that offer letter, you are wedded to that. Ask for more, and just do it anyway. I think what pushes us back is like, oh, we don't want to be seen. You know, I haven't even gotten my foot in the door and I'm already asking for more money. We really have to let that go.
Absolutely. I mean, the biggest thing, absolutely. And the other thing about that is when you get in at a certain level, let's say you land in at 60, but you're really worth 70, the chances of you moving up through raises, it's going to take you 10 years to get there.
Correct. Let's also understand this. Insider look, most salaries every year is like cost of living.
Right.
Maybe more. And if you're working in an industry that doesn't even get any bonuses, quarterly bonuses,
right,
that's all you're going to get, right? Maybe 3% every year, or whatever the cost of living is now these days.
Yeah. But the one caveat to that is make sure you understand the market, because you can't just pick a number out of the blue and say, oh yeah, I feel like I'm worth, you know, and then you kind of go rogue with it, trying to get as much as you can. It's within reason, because I feel like sometimes people, you know, they just kind of go over the top, and it just puts you in a position to where you're, you know, you end up losing because you boxed yourself out of an opportunity.
100%. So those would be the things. I think that's all good information to be more prepared to have these conversations, because it still remains that women earn 82 cents for every dollar a man makes.
Right.
So it's not just going to be the pressure from government on these organizations to do these pay equity audits and what have you. It also has to be us.
That's right.
Getting comfortable with conversations and strategic. We don't have to be a bully about it. That's not what I'm saying. Sometimes you do. You have to kind of like be strong with your recommended, you know, price point, but we have to start getting comfortable, because our counterparts for sure are comfortable.
Right.
And so let's start to get more comfortable and understand, yep, absolutely. Let's talk about what happened over the weekend with the kids at the same time. Yeah, about my salary.
About them kids. They're going to need this salary increase.
Exactly. So, well, thank you for your time. Any last final thoughts?
No, I think just go for it, right? If you've put in the work and you have a strong or solid reputation, do that strong presentation for negotiating a salary that you're worth.
I love that. Yep, just go for it. Yeah, be inspired and be empowered to have these conversations. We really have to shift the seats here and drive our worth and get it. And if we do that all at the same time, a lot of great stuff is going to happen. So again, shout out to all the moms that hit us up on DMs. Continue to do that. we are devoting an evening together every month for moms. This is free HR advice for moms, just for moms. So hit us up, let us know what your current HR issues, HR questions are. We will respond in private or public. It doesn't matter, we're available here to you. So let us know what's pressing on your mind and give us new topics to talk about. But every month, expect this from us. Thank you so much for watching, comment, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.